Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at a Mysteria RuneCraft deck. The only real variation to this one majorly is really the inclusion of things like No Flare, a Truth Adjudication, and Eleanor the Cosmic Flower. A lot of people have already been taking in Student Teacher for the potential to drop, of course, your Prodigy down to 9 for your sorcery play, which is absolutely crazy, so always good there. But these three tech cards mainly, so the Eleanor, the Nova, and the Truth, all serve similar but different purposes. So Eleanor Gloria, pretty decent with its 3 clear and its spell boosting, definitely helps out with Truth Adjudication, Fate's Hand, and the like. Nova Flare is mass board removal, so it's mainly going to be used in the matchups against Shadow, Forest, and probably Blood if I had to really think about how they were played out. For the most part, it was also quite good against Dragon. Truth Adjudication, just an all-around good card, being able to have a heal, damage, and ward all in one that can be decent stats, although it is random, is still reasonably solid, and as a one-off, seems to fit with the Mysteria style of play, and I've actually had a reasonable amount of success with this deck so far, so we're going to get right into this and check it out. So the biggest problem with Mysteria decks are that there's just so much variation on them. There's so many different varieties, different tech choices. As the meta shifts, people are swapping in with them, so it's why they all feel very similar. They've got unique twists to them, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but overall means I have a lot of videos that are very similar, especially when this is one of the few decks that I can actually create so many different kinds of content for, and it's always ever evolving, so there's always going to be some kind of update to the meta, which will then of course in turn update the Mysteria and so on. It's always quite interesting, especially since right now I can't cover Shadow, which is a top meta deck, and Forest, which is kind of right up there at the moment. There's a probably really high tier 2 or just a low tier 1, at least from what I've seen. Owen, Knight of Mysteria, still an amazing card, you can't go wrong. Playing Mysteria though, always a reasonably solid option, especially in tournaments at the moment. Mysteria is still pretty much everywhere. It's really coming down to specifically the tech choices, so this one tends to do quite well in those sort of settings where someone who might be bringing Forest or Shadow would have a hard time dealing with a board clear at the right time, of course. Shadow, not quite as much as Forest, but it definitely does help give you more options, at least to buy a single turn, which is usually all you need with this deck to go for a win. I've also found that I really enjoy getting my Ants to 0 basically, or very close to it, getting my sorcery before turn 8, not worrying about my Evo points, and then using Student Teacher to take advantage of that cost drop. Since of course, the spell card gives you an evolution point back, which is quite handy. There is a Light Mage, mainly just now looking for whatever I can get my hands on for Mysteria card wise. We've got everything else we kind of need. I would have preferred to have got Circle, I think, since double Mysteria Missile isn't actually that handy, and Circle could have been played immediately, but, I mean, beggars can't be choosers every single time, so we'll take what we've got. There's their own Missile, and a Magic Mentor, so they're going to go for even more Mysteria cards. As I said, there are lots of different variants, and the deck my opponent's playing is just another sub-variant of Mysteria. So we get a decent chance now with the rights. And I go for the Fate's Hand since I don't really have a reason not to at this point. And double Anne. Really nice setup, so even if they wipe this, we'd still pretty much win the game. And if they don't clear this now, they do lose, so what do they got here? Mysterian Dragoness. Oh, Grey's Ember, a Missile, and probably not going to be enough, honestly. Since we can deal 4 damage to the face, we can use Student Teacher with its Evolve. We also get a couple of procs, of course, on the Sorcery, which should be well and truly within lethal range, and obviously them noticing that ends up with the concede. Now for our next matchup, we're up against Dragon. Again, still a quite strong deck in the meta, and because a lot of people did craft it at the start of the expansion, it's no surprise that why it's performing at least above average, it's still going to sit in that kind of high category. And a lot of people are running now much more refined deck lists, so mostly focusing on damage dealing and storm effects, and then using stuff like prints and Satan, I guess Satan probably just the easiest way to name it, to just play it out straight away, which is just fine.
I'll hold my blade at Mysteria.
Again, Owen, probably the best turn 2 play that Mysteria decks have, just because they do give you so much advantage. And it's actually a really good setup for this Mysterian knowledge. No matter which one I get here, it's going to be good. Missile, of course, being the better of the options, since we do get 1 damage to face and we clear their follower without any real backlash. Now it's just a matter of what do we do from here. I do decide to go for the missile since I can't use the Grey Evo anyway. And the Windblast top deck actually isn't that bad. So we've been buying our own time, but they are going to ramp fairly hard now. It's a little disappointing. Now it's a chance to go for Light Mage before probably going for Grey. That's if we want to use Grey. It just depends on what kind of board our opponent presents us with. But with what we've got now, we've got a fairly decent chance to spell boost or Mysteria boost all these cards. Altiplane Arbiter, this is actually quite interesting. You don't see that card played a lot because it's not exactly a good card. So it definitely makes for a more interesting match. Now Grey is actually going to be really beneficial. We're going to be able to use the Ember to clear out the 8-3, no problem here. And of course, boosting all our Mysteria cards is always a good thing, even if they are just 2 ands. Oracle, more spell boosting, not great for us to have to deal with, but also not the worst thing in the world. So that was an interesting way to do things, but it does make sense that that's the way they went with the cards they had. Now we just need to focus on some damage for ourselves and drawing cards. Fortunately for us, we ended up getting Student Teacher again, which means turn 9 and Sorcery is actually a potential that we have now. The only unfortunate part is we're not going to be able to use it super early because we're actually going to be just short, I believe, because we're going to get 2 played next turn, which will only take that count to 13. So unless we can get 1 damage, we're not going to be able to kill them in the next couple of turns, which is a little disappointing. But at least this way we're going to absorb a little bit of damage. So they were forced to trade with tried to trade with everything here, so they didn't even get to send 1 damage to face. Now we really just need to buy some time. We are going to take some not so fun damage next turn. The biggest risk is if they have Drahaka. If they do, I'm into some big trouble. As a Drahaka, I think would outright kill me. Maybe not quite. It would be very, very close, honestly, looking at this. Yeah, 9, 16, 15. It would be 15 damage, sorry, with that. So actually, we're reasonably safe. The risk is this turn. Since I can't kill with Sorcery, I've got to pretty much ward up for the best of my ability. So at this point, damage or ward is really all I could hope for. Honestly, any kind of ward would have been good. Any kind of damage would have been good. Being able to remove the 2-2 was going to be kind of the thing I wanted to do, but setting up 3 wards should be more than enough. They would need to have had a reasonable setup of cards to clear this. It wouldn't have been impossible, just I made things more difficult on our opponent. And that will be enough for our end sorcery play. It took a bit longer than I was hoping, but it worked, and that's exactly what we wanted, so why not? So hope you guys did enjoy this video. This deck is still a lot of fun and does a really good job. If you're looking to complete things or just purely play this out, I would definitely recommend it. And since we are going into, I believe, another Grand Prix, I think that'll be on by the time this video comes out for you guys, as, again, I make these in advance. I think we're only 1 day off when I'm making this. This deck could actually perform reasonably well, but I'll have to wait and see what the Grand Prix setup is like, and hopefully, we can have some fun. So, if you're interested in playing this deck, list will be in the description below. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Until next time, see ya.